Viswanathan Anand and Magnus Carlsen played a game of chess thrones. So in the Game of Thrones, you either win or you die, basically. So this was kind of that kind of game. So Magnus is playing with the black pieces, and then Anand is playing with the white pieces. So now the c4 was played, and the Queen's Gambit. Anand is playing the Queen's Gambit, and now this is the Nimzo Indian defense that is being played right now. So now the bishop is attacked, and the bishop and the knight get exchanged. So after the c5 move by Magnus, the pawns get exchanged, and the game continues. So now Anand plays e3, and now the c4 move was played by Magnus, creating this nice little pawn structure. So the knight develops to e2, and Magnus's knight also developed to c6. And after the pawn push, Magnus just castle on the king side. So now Anand also developed his bishop to g2, and after that, the knight goes to a5, preparing to jump into this nice little outpost over here, which is a good square for knight. So after Anand also castles on the king side. The knight jumps to b3, and the rook moves to a2, and then the attack, kind of an attack, begins by Magnus by moving this pawn to b5, and Anand just mobilizes his knight to g3, preparing for an attack. And now the a5 move is played, and now the pawn march is basically happening on the queen side, basically. So after the pawn push, Magnus just retrieves his pawn. Now, as you can see, this bishop, even though it never moved, it's really active, and it's create a good support. So Magnus decides to exchange that bishop for his knight, his well placed knight, and it was accepted. So now the pawn push continues, and Magnus just develops his knight again. And as you can see, this nice little pawn structure for Anand, creating a good attack on the center and towards on the queen side as well, covering most of the board actually. So Magnus decides to do something about it, and the pawns get exchanged, and the rooks get exchanged. And now the Anand continues with his pawn push. Now as you can see, this pawn structure is like this, and now Anand just places his queen right behind his pawns, preparing for the attack. So Magnus realized what's going to happen, and he just immediately repositioned his knight. And after the following moves, now the knight needs to come here, because otherwise the queen will come here and it will be checkmate. So now with the knight here, you cannot checkmate now. So the knight was mobilized to come here in just earlier moves, so that this square is guarded. So with this knight here, you cannot bring your queen here. So now the other option is to attack this h7 square over here. So now there are other options that could have been played. Now after the move, Magnus just plays this simple looking move, and he's looking to to queen, basically. So instead of guarding it, Anand just pushes his rook forward. So the idea is to bring the rook to h4, creating a checkmate threat here. So Magnus just pushes his queen with a force move with a check. So here is how the game changes. So the knight went back. So with the knight here, Magnus could now just bring his queen, the newly queened pawn here. Now this actually creates an exchange like this. So now that pawn became queen, and it got exchanged for his Magnus's active rook. And now Magnus goes after Anand's weak pawn, and even after this, Magnus is up by a rook, and Anand resigns, and Magnus wins. So in such position, master level players won't continue. So the problem happened when the knight move was played. So instead, Anand could have just either closed the check with the bishop, or he would have just moved the king here, which will prevent the rook, the queen, from coming here. So basically, I'll just show you the continuation. If you had moved the king, so it would have happened like this, and even if Anand closes the knight, you could still do this, and Magnus will still have an advantage, because this rook is gone anyway. So So the earlier there was an earlier move. So here, once this happens, you could just play instead of going here, because you know this knight is here. You cannot attack here anyway. So you could have just played the following line, and this would have happened. So the knight came here to protect this pawn over here, because with this pawn gone, the pawns can come down. And once the exchange happen like this, these are the weak pawns of Magnus, and the Magnus also have this still have this pawn here. So we would have had an interesting game, but that didn't happen basically. So that's it regarding Viswanathan Anand and Magnus Carlsen. Magnus won, and basically Anand blundered incredibly. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened like that. So these are two incredible players. So thanks very much for watching. If you haven't followed or subscribed, please do so. I'll see you soon in the upcoming video.